Hello and welcome to This Really Happened, a place where unbelievable, heart-touching true stories come to life. Sometimes surprising, sometimes bittersweet, always real. Grab a drink and settle in. We're about to begin. Emily and Sarah strolled leisurely along the long park avenue, deep in conversation. They were sharing the latest news from their lives, which had taken different paths now. Since one of them had married and become a mother, their meetings with the other had become very rare. Max, a border collie and Emily's loyal companion, ran beside her, step for step, looking around attentively. He was, as always, calm and composed. Emily unclipped the leash, and Max, glancing back for permission, immediately dashed ahead. In the fenced-off area, Max joined the other dogs. They came here often, and the four-legged friend knew all the regulars. A game started instantly, and soon joyful barking filled the air. "I feel sorry for you," said Sarah, the one who had become a mother suddenly. The phrase was so unexpected that her friend froze, staring at her. But her companion continued calmly, as if not noticing the surprise. "Look at your life. You have nothing, really. You're 26 already, and you have no family, no children, not even a boyfriend." She continued, not letting up. "Only work and a dog, nothing more. You're losing precious time. No one will marry you when you're 30. You'll just be left alone with your dog, your computer, and your chocolates." "I was the same way until I realized what true female happiness is," she asked, bewildered. "It's our main purpose. How can you refuse that?" Emily was still silent, only smirking to herself. She could already anticipate where this conversation was heading. "But think about it. You're a woman. You have to give birth," insisted Sarah, who was pushing a stroller in front of her, looking at it lovingly. "I didn't want to either. I said it was too early for me, but I gave birth and now I can't get enough of my little son. You should have a child, if only for yourself. Without a child, it's not a life at all." "I love you, but honestly, you've lost your mind," Emily said, expressing her thoughts directly. "I'm not just a girl. I'm a person first and foremost. I don't want to live the way I'm supposed to, or the way someone else has decided. I love my dog, my work, my little studio." She continued calmly but firmly. "I love my life the way it is, and I like living this way. I'm happy, and I find joy in every day. Do I need to give birth just because you did, or because someone else decided that all women are obligated to? That sounds awfully stupid. You're not the first person who's had a baby and is now trying to push everyone else into it." She tried to speak gently so as not to offend her friend. "It's some kind of herd instinct with you people, honestly. If you've given birth, then everyone around you has to follow your example. But everyone is different, and every woman has the right to live as she wants. And I want to live without children." "Well, you're a fool. You'll regret it later," Sarah, the one who had become a mother, cut in rudely. "A woman's happiness is in children and family, not in dogs, apartments, and chocolates." Emily looked at her friend again, bewildered. "But what if your mother hadn't given birth to you?" "I wouldn't exist, and it wouldn't matter at all," Sarah interrupted. "All right. I guess it's not for nothing that we haven't seen each other for so long. I'm sorry that I no longer fit your ideal of a friend." Emily was simply tired of hearing the same thing. How wonderful Sarah's son was, how wonderful her husband was, how happy she was to be a mother, and that her friend was simply obligated to give birth. This must complex had appeared in Sarah rather abruptly. Before, she had been cheerful and free-spirited in her opinions, but a year of marriage and 3 months of motherhood seemed to have turned her into a robot, demanding that everyone conform to her new norms. Emily continued, "Perhaps we shouldn't see each other anymore. I don't want to hear that I owe someone something, that my dog is stupid and my work is abnormal, as you put it. I think you'd be better off socializing with other mothers whose lives are correct." She turned towards the area. "Come!" Max instantly stopped playing and raced towards Emily. She clipped on the leash and headed away. Sarah, the one who had become a mother, stunned by such a statement, remained standing in place. Emily walked with Max along the avenue, and he followed her step for step. He looked at Emily with such devotion, as if nothing could be happier for him than simply being by her side. She turned left down a street, bypassing the large park. Her friend's reproaches had tired her out. She felt a deep weariness. They came out onto an almost deserted street. Emily took the leash off Max. Max ran freely beside her. She thought about how her former friend wasn't entirely honest, even with herself. She had seen Sarah's tears 1,000,000 times, listened to her complaints, and that kind of life didn't seem happy at all. The man who became the father of her child had literally forced her to give birth, threatening divorce. She had agreed through tears, and after the birth, he constantly reproached her with the child if something went wrong. Now he didn't let her work, and she was only allowed to leave the house with the stroller. Her entire life had turned into a kind of confinement, and Emily certainly didn't wish for such a fate. She looked back and didn't see Max nearby. Startled, she called him, but the four-legged friend was nowhere to be seen. She was about to run back, but then she turned her head and saw a man lying on the ground. People were just walking past. No one stopped to help. Only Max was nudging him with his nose, barking and howling, trying to attract attention. Emily rushed to Max, fell to her knees, and felt for the man's pulse. She immediately called an ambulance. Max circled around the man. "Well done, good boy," she said, stroking Max behind the ear. When the ambulance arrived, the man was taken away, and Emily and Max were left standing there. She turned to her four-legged friend and said, "You did well, but you shouldn't have run off. You should have called, and I would have followed you. Understood?" Max looked at her as if he really understood. But since then, she never let him off the leash again. They walked home along the long and again half-empty street, turning onto it from the busy avenue where the man had been lying. She barely thought about him. The paramedics had taken her number just in case, but they were unlikely to call. After all, she didn't know this man at all. Emily approached the apartment building and went inside. Max, after having his paws washed, lay down on his bed and almost immediately dozed off. Emily checked for new orders in her online store and went to prepare the ordered chocolate and candies she sold. Her hobby had turned into a real profession, and she earned very well. Of course, from the outside, her work seemed abnormal. Even when people found out she earned 3 times more than them, they still frowned and said it was not work at all. Turning on a series in the kitchen, Emily got to work. She went into the living room for molds, and she didn't like the look of Max. The four-legged friend looked lethargic. His eyes were watery. She examined him, but found no other symptoms. With anxiety in her heart, she returned to the kitchen. One evening, when she was free and entered the living room again, she was rushing headlong to the phone to call a taxi. Max was unwell. Tear-stained, she sat in the back seat of a yellow taxi. Max lay beside her, resting his head on her lap. He was drooling heavily and had a fever. He was breathing heavily and intermittently. Stepping out of the car, she picked up the 20-kilogram dog, barely feeling his weight from the stress. Emily carried her pet into the clinic, and the vets immediately took over the new patient. "I'm very sorry," said the vet, giving the diagnosis. "We don't have the facilities for this kind of surgery. We'll keep him on an IV until morning, and then there you'll have to decide. Either put him down or transfer him. But you'll need specialized transport, and it's expensive. It's around 100 just for the transport, and I don't know the exact cost there, but the surgery will cost a pretty penny." The vet added, "This disease is not uncommon in this breed. There was nothing you could have done. Go home. You need to think about it until morning." Emily cried all evening, until deep into the night, until she fell asleep from the tears and the burning pain in her eyes. She was crying because she didn't have that kind of money saved up, and she didn't have any acquaintances she could borrow from either. Not losing hope, she went to the clinic early in the morning. She cried in the taxi too, clutching a bag with her savings. She was ready to do anything to find the money for the surgery. The main thing was to transfer him. The taxi pulled up to the doors of the expensive 24-hour clinic. Emily got out and immediately went to the reception desk. But the vet met her with eyes wide with surprise. "Your dog has already been taken," he said. He looked utterly astonished. "And the funds have been deposited into the account, and your pet should already be there. He was picked up about 2 hours ago." "I don't quite understand. Who made the payment then?" the vet asked, more to himself. "I did," said a man, rising from a bench in the corridor. Emily looked at him and instantly recognized the very man whom Max had effectively saved. People had walked past, assuming someone else would surely help, but in the end, only the four-legged friend had rushed to the rescue. David led the tear-stained Emily, her eyes red from crying, outside to talk. "Don't worry, he's already there. They're preparing him for surgery," he said. "The doctors give almost 100% guarantee that everything will be fine because you acted very quickly. Your dog, well, when I had a heart attack in the middle of the street, I might not have survived." He continued, "No one helped me, only your dog called you. I even remember him nudging my face with his cold nose, and everyone around just didn't care. There's more humanity in a dog than in people. They gave me your number, my people found you. They told me right away that your pet was in trouble. I hurried to help. Time is critical here. A life for a life, as they say," David said, smiling. "I'll never forget this. Thank you," she whispered, starting to cry again. I gathered my last money. I was thinking about what to do, and then you." She couldn't speak. Tears choked her. "How can I thank you? It's a huge amount. I make amazing homemade chocolate. Would you like me to make it for you for the rest of my life to repay you?" "What nonsense," David smiled. "It's not that big an amount for me. Let's do this. When your dog recovers and gets better, you'll go on a date with me, since you want to thank me so much." Emily smiled back at him involuntarily. Now everything seemed wonderful, but if she had been late getting help, Max might not have survived. Her new acquaintance even helped her find this out. And when he provided her with proof that her former friend had also been involved, she was simply stunned. Emily's first stop was to see Sarah, the one who had become a mother, but Sarah immediately burst into tears, hoping they would serve as an excuse. Only now these tears no longer moved her. "I thought it was because of the dog you were like this. But you're a woman," her former friend sobbed. She continued through tears. "If your dog had died, you would have wanted a child. We would have raised children together. We would have been friends like before. You know, anyone capable of doing that to an animal is capable of doing it to a person," Emily said. "And in this life, everything comes back around. Wait for your comeback. I believe in karma. Goodbye." Live your happy family life and wait. Life will definitely settle the score with you. Emily went down the stairs to her former friend's less than flattering remark. Their relationship was destroyed in an instant. She got into David's car, the man who had helped. He smiled at her, and she smiled back involuntarily. Max in the back seat rested his head on her shoulder. She thought about how fate did exist after all. It was as if this man had been sent so that he could later save Max, who might not have survived because of her former friend. Emily believed that this man and Max were the ones fate itself had sent. And from that moment on, everything would be all right for them.